YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back, and we got a good one for you guys today. Trade deadline is just over a week away. A lot of rumors heating up. We actually had a Yannick Ngakoue trade already, but a lot of rumors heating up. And I want to talk about the big name players that could be traded based on what I'm hearing or me predicting maybe guys' names that could come up. I'm not predicting every single one of these guys. I got 14 of them. I'm not predicting every single one of these guys to be traded, but we'll take a look at these guys and where they could go and what maybe my way too early prediction is. We'll cover the trade deadline more and more. Got a couple of videos still to come as we get closer and as we have a better idea what could happen. Right now it's all just rumors and speculation here. So it's going to be fun to cover this year. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. If you do, please smash that like button and subscribe. Again, more videos like this on the way. And then our weekly routine there. We got power rankings, predictions, score predictions, a bunch of videos keeping you guys involved. Twitter is how you get even more involved. Constant NFL talk. If a trade goes down, we'll let you know about it and let you know my thoughts on it instantly on that Twitter. And we tweet during live games as well. It's a must-follow link down below. Podcast, Patreon, Instagram, links down below. 60K. Please help us get there. We much appreciate if you subscribe. We're getting really close. But that Patreon has a bunch of extra content. Junior, who's leading the GOAT House in picks, his score predictions are up there every single week. And for this week, week 7 already up. My bets of the week, which have been going very well this year, over, under, and against the spread picks. Same thing for college football. Not only score predictions, but bets of the week. Updated playoff predictions. You'll see my predicted seedings, round-by-round winner, and playoff winner. First edition of those have come out already, and we'll update those every week. Bonus content, Discord access, much more. Let's get Quinn Williams out of the way first. Some rumors coming out that the Jets stud defensive lineman that was a top pick last draft could possibly be on the trading block. And I've heard rumors that a second rounder could do it. And I'm not buying that. I think that's BS. It is the Jets. But I'm not buying it. I think his value, and I'll have a value for each of these players, and it's not really my value. It's just kind of what I'm predicting his value to be at. And even though second round has been the rumor, I don't believe it. I think the value is at a first round pick. My prediction is pretty simple. I don't think he's traded. And if traded, there's a lot of teams that would be interested, a lot of teams. But if I had to pick one team here, I was thinking the Cardinals. The Cardinals, a young team, but that also can win now. And Quinn Williams would make sense to that. They also have a huge need at D-line, and they're also a team that I actually could see trading a first-round pick for him, and the Jets actually being interested in that because that first-round pick will probably be in the middle, maybe pushing back because the Cardinals are a pretty sneaky good team. Middle of the first, maybe later middle of the first, possibly. And compared to the other teams that would trade a first, those teams would probably be definitely picking late. So the Cardinals' first-round pick may actually have the best value. I think it's a fit. I think it's a need. I think it's a team that would be interested in doing it. The guy can play anywhere across the D-line pretty much in a 3-4, exactly what the Cardinals would love. But again, I didn't hear anything about the Cardinals doing it. That's just me thinking who would be the best fit, who would do it, who would the Jets possibly accept. But I'm not predicting it to happen. I think too valuable. He's a stud. People don't really realize how good he is yet. He's an absolute stud. Can play nose, can play pretty much anywhere on the D-line, can get after the quarterback. I would like to see him on the end a little more, honestly, because I think he's that good at getting after the quarterback. But, I don't think it happens because I think the Jets view him as too valuable. And I don't think anybody's going to give up a top 10 pick, even though he's probably worthy of that. But most of those teams might need a quarterback or do need a quarterback, so they won't trade that. So that's what I'm going with there. Anthony Harris is next. You see the Vikings trade Yannick Ngakoue. You see the Vikings struggling. You see Anthony Harris, who they tried to trade in the offseason. Why? Because they didn't want to pay him a lot of money. Why? Because they don't have a lot of money. But they franchise tag him anyways. He's a very good free safety on the rise, a big-time playmaker. And mainly here, they're not really going rebuild, but they're kind of going towards that direction where they're going to gather some picks. But mainly, Anthony Harris probably won't be able to be re-signed by the Vikings in the offseason. So you might as well get something out of nothing. But I say nothing with caution there, or I suppose, because The Vikings would get a compensatory pick if they lost him in free agency. They would get a 2022 third-round pick is what I'm projecting. I'm very, very confident on that. So they would need at least a 2021 third-round pick to make this happen. I think his value, they will put it at a third plus a mid. Maybe that's a fifth or a sixth rounder, in my head here. A third plus a fifth or a sixth. I still think there's, it's not a guarantee they lose him. They can find ways to sign him. They seem to always do that. He's still young, getting better. So it's not a guarantee that they'll lose him. So the other teams really don't have a ton of leverage. So that's why it's the third plus something else. The Vikings may think, all right, we'll just hang on to him. Maybe we'll get him back. If not, we'll get that 2022 third round compensatory pick for losing him in free agency. My prediction, though, is actually not traded, which may surprise some people because it sounds like they're going to look, and I agree with that. They're going to make some calls. Some teams will call them about this. That will happen because the Vikings' current state of the franchise and what I said, Anthony Harris most likely will be gone. Discussions will be had. Why I don't think it'll happen, I don't think a team is going to offer this. I don't know if a team even offers a third this year. Maybe a 2022 third, which, again, I think the Vikings would rather, wait it out, see what happens, and then get that compensatory 2022 third. Why I don't think a team trades that where his value is because I don't think there's teams that need a free safety, and there's teams that could use Anthony Harris for the future. That would be a reason they do. But I'm thinking teams would rather just wait until free agency to get him, and then we can get the free agent. We don't have to trade that pick. Why? Because usually a free safety, I do think it's more important than people make it seem, but teams are going to be thinking free safety isn't going to make or break our team right now. We don't necessarily have to trade for him halfway through the season. Right now, we can wait. Browns come to mind. Washington football team it's a huge need, would be a really good fit in my opinion. I think he'd be very good there with Landon Collins, in those corners and that pass rush. But the Browns mainly come to mind. Stefanski obviously didn't have anything to do with the defense of Minnesota, but familiar with Anthony Harris. Maybe a reason why he brought Sendejo in. Sendejo, I think, playing out of position and kind of washed up at this point. Browns fans don't like him too much. He's at the point of his career where he's going downhill. They did draft Grant Delpit, so that'd be a reason they maybe don't pick up Anthony Harris because they're feeling pretty confident in Grant Delpit, which solid young player, but you get much, much better with Anthony Harris here. And they're a contender, so if they traded for him at the deadline here, maybe they're not a Super Bowl contender, but in their minds they got to be confident, which I would, they need confidence. That's good. So adding a guy like this can make their defense that much better. Well, why it's a great fit is actually the Browns' defense on paper isn't that great, and I still don't think it's that good, but it's been playing better than expected. Why? Because they're getting pass rush and they're getting turnovers. Pass rush of Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, creating those quarterback hurries. They're creating turnovers. Myles Garrett getting the turnovers himself. Anthony Harris is a playmaker. That turnover number will actually go up adding Anthony Harris with that defense. So this will be a big-time pickup. I think if he gets traded, the team that will be most interested is the team that I said would be most interested in free agency and when he was on the trading block in the offseason after the franchise tag is the Browns. But like I said, Washington comes up. There's several teams we can talk about, but those are the teams I've narrowed down to. But again, I think teams would rather just wait, so that's why I don't think it happens. But we'll see. Next, Avery Williamson's the name that's definitely going to come up. We haven't really heard much about him yet, but it's going to come up. The Jets are kind of they're sellers. They're going to sell some players. They're still within that rebuild mode. I don't really know what mode they're in right now. It's not good, obviously, but a team like the Jaguars, they don't have the pieces to win now, but they're collecting all these picks, so they're in a good situation. The Jets need to collect more picks, and they're going that route. Avery Williamson's on an expiring contract. He's a very solid inside linebacker. I think his value is probably at a fourth-round pick. Keep in mind that his contract is coming to an end, and teams would have to re-sign him if they chose to. I think fits. The Steelers lost Devin Bush for the season, and they're a contender. This is a really good defense, best in football. If they take Devin Bush out, their stud inside linebacker, are they the best defensive football? Do they take a hit? I think they do. They might still be the best defensive football, and they're trying to win now. They're in contending mode, obviously, and it's a good fit. I think the Packers, they desperately need an inside linebacker. Fits the 3-4. I think you can play a 4-3 as well. Why I have the Browns up here? The Browns need linebacker help. Patriots need inside linebacker help. And these teams would have enough cap space to make it work. That's something that people forget as well. Why don't you have this team? Why don't you have that team? Does the cap space work now? Does it work in the future for future contracts? Avery Williamson's expiring after this year. Tough decision for me between really all these teams, but really between the Steelers and the Packers. I think the Steelers might have confidence in what they got, I think the Packers almost have to. I mean, I'm predicting the Packers. It's bold for me to predict any team at this point for any of these guys, but I'm predicting he gets traded. I do think he gets traded. If I had to make a prediction here, I think it's the Packers. I think the Packers pretty much have to. They're pretty much, they're in the market for getting an inside linebacker. They're kind of scrambling for one. They're trying to see who can take, Kirksey's a solid pickup, but, he's got the injury situations always. Williamson would be their best inside linebacker. It would probably be a rental. They could definitely re-sign him, but that's why maybe teams would be hesitant. 4th-round pick for a rental. But the Packers are a contending team. They desperately, desperately need this. I think they realize that at this moment. So that's definitely a team to look out for, along with these other teams here for Avery Williamson. I expect him to be traded. I do. If he doesn't, I just think a deal could not be reached. Maybe I think calls will definitely be made for sure, and I don't see why not here. Expiring contract, teams could use him as a rental. Contending teams I'd look out for mainly because of that, but teams also could re-sign him. He's a pretty good linebacker, had the injury pop up last year, so that's maybe the only concern with extending him long term. What is the upper 20s in terms of his age? So definitely a guy to look out for. I think he'll get traded, as I said there. Zach Ertz, kind of a big name popping up here. I think his value probably around a 2nd-round pick. Personally, I wouldn't trade a 2nd-round pick for him, but I think that's where his value will be at. Rumors are actually coming out now that the Eagles were shown that they may be willing to trade him before he got hurt. Now he got hurt, so that plays into my prediction. He's hurt right now, and I think the value from the Eagles' point of view might be too high for other teams. Then that goes into my prediction of him not being traded. That's my prediction. If traded, I look at the Patriots and the Colts. The Colts do have Doyle and Burton right now and Mo Alley Cox, but Doyle's kind of hit or miss. Burton's not the answer. So I think pairing Ertz with a Mo Alley Cox for right now and the future would be ideal. They have cap space. I do think it's more of a long shot. I think the Patriots would be more likely. But I do think it'd be a good fit with the Colts. I think that's something they would be interested in. But yeah, if he's traded, I'd say the Patriots probably be the most interested and most be willing to do it. But again, I just don't think it happens. I'd advise, if I had to say here, I'd advise the Eagles not to extend Zach Ertz. That's also why his name has come up, because he's due for an extension. Well, he in his mind, he's due for an extension. He wants that now. He wants to get paid, big money. And I'm not saying he's not deserving of it, but the Eagles gave out 2 lengthy contracts. They're kind of in the business of repaying guys for winning a Super Bowl, which they did win that Super Bowl. That's big time. But the way they've handled the cap in the front office has been maybe the worst in football since then. So I'd advise them. They're already in cap space hell in the future. I'd advise them not to extend him. I definitely don't think that would be a good move. But not doubting his talent, but it's not the smart move from what's going on with the way they've managed the roster and the cap space. But I don't think he gets traded, and we'll see if he ends up getting extended. But I don't think he gets traded, but that's definitely a name to look out for. Next, talk about Geno Atkins. Geno Atkins was hurt to start the year, and now he's not happy with his playing time. And I put his value, he's probably better than this, but I'm predicting his value to be around a 5th-round pick. And I still don't think there's any takers, really, and that's because of his contract. 2 more years left and a pretty big cap hit, double-digit cap hit, around that $14 million range these next couple years or more. And that would be the reason. I don't know if anybody would be takers. Is there a team that has enough cap space that also has the need? You can definitely find teams that have the need, but then also has the cap space, also that'd be willing to do this. I think for it to get done, it'd have to be around a 5th-round pick. But again, I don't know if a team would do it. The Cowboys would probably be interested. They're always open to trading for veteran guys like this. Atkins might not be as good as he was a few years ago, but he's still very solid. Also, the teams have leverage. The Bengals aren't playing him, and they'll probably start to. Had the injuries, but so that's why his value has really gone down. But again, I don't see it happening. There is not enough teams that would be even willing to do it for under his value because of his cap space the next 2 years. A lot of the teams that I think I thought about, the team like the Lions, a team I thought about, but they would rather hang on to that cap space, in that pick, a team like that, because they don't really know where the state of their franchise is right now. Even the Cowboys, where are they at? They made, where they got to re-sign Dak if they choose to do so. So I don't really think this happens, but it's a guy that name will come up, but because of his, maybe if a restructure was agreed to, but a lot has to happen. I think if a restructure was agreed to, I think definitely something can happen. But yeah, again, a lot has to happen. I don't see it just because of his cap hit situation. But we'll see. His name will be brought up. Another Bengal, AJ Green. I put his value around a third-round pick. He has still a bit of a cap hit this year. It's a little pricey on the franchise tag, but then he'll have to be extended after this year. So this would be a rental. This would definitely be a rental if somebody would trade for him. It would just be for this year because I don't think anybody wants to extend him on what he'll ask for because, he's not the same as he was a few years ago. He has the injury concern. What's with his attitude right now, and it's just based on what he said on the sideline a couple weeks ago, but that's a small part. But I'm predicting it not to happen here because I don't think a team would want to trade what the Bengals will be asking, which is a third-round pick, maybe a fourth-round pick. If I was the Bengals, I would actually do that. But, I think they put the value around the third-round pick is what I'm predicting. So a team that would rent him, that's what it would be, go for a Super Bowl this year, would they be willing to trade that third-round pick or so for a rental? And I don't think so. If traded, I look at the Saints and the Packers. Teams that won't want to pay him in the future, but teams that would definitely be able to use him now. The Saints are in a Super Bowl bust season right now. They're in cap space. It's a cap space nightmare after this year. And they need to win now or they blow it. Not quite blow it up, but pretty close. So getting AJ Green could help. Michael Thomas hasn't really been playing. More things are popping up, but they can use him alongside that. Packers definitely could use another guy like this to contend this year. But will they be willing to trade what his value is at for a rental? Possible. I don't know if I'm seeing it right now, so that's why my prediction is not he won't be traded for now. We still got over a week to go. Remember, more videos coming. Ryan Kerrigan will be a free agent after this year. You see that his snap count isn't where it should be because he's a very talented dude. I think he played 7 or 8 snaps, I want to say, against the Giants, and he had a sack in those 8 snaps or so. Value third-round pick. Remember, his expiring contract, but I do think he has some value. Pass rush is so important. There's teams out there that are maybe a pass rusher away from being more of a contender. And Washington could sell it as they may want to re-sign him. It's possible. So the value is around a third-round pick. Maybe a fourth-round pick happens. Fits quite a few teams. I think a good fit with the Lions. They need pass rush to being a little better. 7 teams make the playoffs. The Lions are back on winning track. They could be thinking they're sneaking in. The Colts, I think, if they added more pass rush on the edge, this could be a dangerous defense. They're a team that's trying to make the playoffs. And I think Kerrigan fits a 3-4 or 4-3. I think he fits either one. He's played in both. The Cardinals, Chandler Jones goes down, and they're trying to make the playoffs. That's a team to look out for. The Bills, they can get pressure, but they just aren't getting sacks. They need a guy that can get sacks, and that will make their defense that much better. Defense been a little bit of a letdown because of that, so they can be in the market. And the Seahawks, it's a contending team that also probably has the worst pass rush from the edge in football. Those two don't really go together. Whether I'm really high in the Seahawks. I had them going far this year. Those being a contender and not being that bad in terms of edge rush, they don't really go together once we get down to crunch time, once we get down to the stretch of the season. If we get to the NFC Championship game, wherever they may go, they need somebody like this. They need them. And I'm predicting the Seahawks for that reason. Can they make the cap work, though? Very limited right now. Kerrigan's going to be due some money. I think they can make it work. So I'm predicting the Seahawks because the Lions might be on the fence because, where are we at, or do we have any business trading for somebody? Are we really going to win anything? Again, this could be Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia's last go. Trade for what? This is our last shot. Trade for big time players. Make us better now to save our jobs. That would be a reason for the Lions. The Colts, again, I have the Colts in a lot of these coming up because they have the cap space, and I think they have the need in a lot of these. Mainly, they have the cap space now and the future. So the Colts make a lot of sense in these, but at the same time, they're always very hesitant to make these deals. Very hesitant. That's why the Buckner trade was very surprising. But if it makes too much sense if they added this piece. Cardinals, I think, is unlikely compared to the rest. Chandler Jones got hurt, but they like Hassan Reddick. They like Devon Kennard there. So we'll see if they roll with that. And they have a strong blitzing game. The Bills, they've picked up too many average to maybe a little bit above average edge rushers. I think they're in the market for going big or go home, and they don't really have the money to do that, though. So maybe it's a little unlikely even though they should. So I think the top teams here should be the Colts, but I'm always hesitant with them because they're hesitant to make these deals. Seahawks and Lions, I think maybe the most likely. The Bills are maybe in there as well. Seahawks, it's just a deal they have to do. It's a rare opportunity. We've seen them do this in the past. It's just something they have to do. They're limited in picks, so maybe they have to work out with equal value to a third-round pick or a future, pick. But it's something they have to do. They have to, and I think they will realize that. They realize when they need something. So that's how I'm going with the Seahawks here. Next, Dwayne Haskins. Maybe I'm getting a little bold here, but I think his value is around a fourth-round pick. Still has upside. It's probably maximum. I'd say maximum maybe third, but the Washington team, they don't really have any interest in him, it seems like. So leverage kind of goes to the other team a little bit, but Washington also doesn't have to trade him. They don't have to. So maybe that offsets it a little bit. I look at the Steelers, I look at the Colts, I look at the Patriots. Three teams that are good teams that can develop quarterbacks that are also looking for quarterbacks of the future. I'm going to say Steelers. Maybe he doesn't get traded, but I'm going to say if he gets traded here, I'm going to say Steelers makes a lot of sense for him to learn behind Big Ben. I think a perfect situation. I think a perfect fit, and I still think he has a ton of upside. I think they'll be very interested in him for around that value. That's definitely an interesting guy that I'm looking forward to see if he gets traded. So I'm looking out for the Steelers, but the Colts and the Patriots, him to learn behind Phillip Rivers, but they also have Jacob Eason, they also have Brissett. Maybe that one's a little less likely, but quarterback of the future, still kind of up in the air there. In the Patriots, same thing. For him to learn behind Cam, I think it would be perfect as well. Kind of like learning behind Big Ben with the Steelers. Cam has that running ability to him that Dwayne Haskins, I think, could add to his game as well. Because he's a strong dude. He can move a little bit. We'd like for him to move a little more. I'm going to go Steelers here if I had to predict. But let's talk about another quarterback, Sam Darnold. I think it's not my value again. It's what I'm predicting their value to be set at. I think the Jets will ask for a second-round pick, maybe at least, and I wouldn't trade that for him. I'm not a Sam Darnold guy, and that's kind of why I have him, not traded for my prediction, because I don't think a team offers that. I think would rather have a guy like Haskins for 2 rounds cheaper. I really think so. He actually might have more upside. If traded, similar teams here. The Colts and the Steelers, I think, good fits and could be. It's not that much of a gamble for them if they do it. It's a bit of a gamble for second round, but it's not that much. And they're looking for the quarterbacks of the future. So I think those teams. I don't think the Jets would trade them to the Patriots, so that's why they were kind of removed from the last one to this one. But a name that will come up. I think it already has. I just don't think the deal gets done. I really don't believe it gets done. Next, Melvin Ingram, who's been beat up. He's been hurt. And then, remember he won a little more money in the offseason. They restructured it a bit for him. But then he's going to be a free agent this offseason. And they have a ton of free agents. They have money, but they have a ton of free agents. I put his value at a third and a fourth. I think Melvin Ingram's really good. Maybe why it would be less than that is because he has the injury concern, some minor injuries popping up here and there. So maybe that's why it would be less than that. I don't think he gets traded because I think the Chargers would rather keep him for now, unless they get kind of max value there. Maybe more than what his value is. I think they would rather keep him. He's so important in this defense. You see how much better the pass rush and the defense is with him versus without him. So they actually could extend him. It's not a guy they have to trade because they could use him when he comes back this year. And it's a guy that it's not off the table that they can extend. They have money. They do have to extend a lot of players, but they do have money. It's a guy that is very important to them, but I almost got the feel that, they could move on to him, which I think could be a mistake, but, he has injuries popping up. And similar teams get popped up here. The Colts have the money now. They have the money to extend him in the future. They have the need at edge rush. This defense will be downright scary if they add an edge rusher like this. Again, the Colts, Ballard, always hesitant to make these moves and use that money. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to put them in here. But the first box you have to check is like, do you have the money now? And then in certain situations, do you have the money in the future? And the Colts will have that, and that's why they're in a lot of these. And the Patriots, I think he's a really good fit. I think it's kind of, what they want a guy like Josh Uche to be. with Melvin Ingram. So I think it's a really good fit. I think it makes them that much better now. They are a contender right now, at least in their minds, they believe so. And they get a lot better with their pass rush. Melvin Ingram, Winovich, I think Ingram is a Belichick defensive type of guy. He plays really all over, moves around, just makes the defense a lot better in general. So I think those teams would actually be interested. But I don't know if the Chargers are that interested to trade him, unless you got to really come at him with a pretty good offer here. You may say, what about you mentioned the Seahawks need pass rush, you mentioned the Bills need pass rush. Cap space probably won't work. He gets paid a lot more than a guy like Ryan Kerrigan this year, so the cap hit will probably be too much this year. Sure, they can restructure some things, not with him. He won't do that. And possibly make it work. It's kind of a long shot, though. So some people may be confused on why those teams aren't in there. The cap has to work. And again, I'm not saying 0% chance it'll work, but right now the way it sits, I don't think it works. But again, I don't know if the Chargers trade him. I'm not really confident they do. Moving on to the next one, Golden Tate, which now I'm a little iffy on because last night he put out a pretty good showing against the Eagles. And that was impressive. And I know the Giants like him. I know Daniel Jones like him. Maybe they want to keep him. Maybe the leverage for the Giants just went up a little bit. I put the value around a 4th-round pick, but maybe he went up to a 3rd. Maybe they're like, we don't really need to get rid of him. We have him under contract from next year. It's a little pricey next year for him, though. Maybe we need a 3rd to get rid of him. So I'm starting to think that. Teams that need a receiver, and that possibly could be contenders. Patriots, Packers, Colts. I think the Chargers are a wild card. I think Golden Tate would be a good fit, pairing him with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I think they'd be a lot better at the position with him, but that's kind of more of a wild card. But if I was kind of predicting it to happen because it's been a rumor. His name's already come up. The Giants kind of want to clear his space next year. It's a little bit of a cap hit next year. So I think that kind of makes a team like the Packers a little less likely, but Golden Tate on the Packers this year would very much make them more of a contender. The Colts desperately need a receiver. They have the cap space next year. I think it's more of the Patriots-Packers, but because it's a cap hit next year, I think more of the Patriots would be interested. Patriots are always interested in a lot of deals, but these types of deals, these types of players. Will the Giants accept a 4th, though? I think teams can be on a different page here. So maybe I'm starting to think maybe a deal doesn't happen because the Giants are probably thinking we like him. We don't really have to get rid of him. And the other teams can be thinking 4th might be too much because he's a cap hit this year. He's a cap hit next year. He's aging a little bit. He's still pretty good though. So will the teams be able to have the same idea here, the same agreement? So it might be a tough one to happen actually. But his name has already come up. It's already popped up quite a bit here. So we'll see. And the Giants with another, even though he played well against the Eagles, another loss, another step in the direction of we're still in rebuild mode. Do we want to be paying this guy next year? Do we want more picks? So definitely an interesting one, We'll see if two teams can reach an agreement. The Giants and the other team can reach an agreement. J.J. Watt, haven't heard anything on this, but it is a big name that could come up. Obviously, I'm not predicting it to happen because I think the Texans will be very, very hesitant to get rid of their stud player here. That's a big piece of this franchise for so long. And the value will be at a 2nd-round pick. Nobody's going to give up a 1st. Maybe the Texans may have to ask for a 1st, though, just because how much they like J.J. Watt. It's tough to see them trading him. But where are the Texans at? They don't have a 1st-round pick. They gave that up. I think they're going to look to reacquire picks back. I think they really are. And this is a really a big opportunity to do so. To gain a pick back, to gain more. I mean, you're not going to be able to recoup what you lost there, but I think you have an opportunity here, and I think teams would be willing to do so. But the problem is, I don't know if there's a team that can do it. I don't know if there's a team that will give up that high of a pick for an aging guy that he's still good, but he has the injury concern as well. So I don't think a deal happens here. I don't know if the Texans even want to get rid of him, but they have the opportunity to get a pick back, possibly a good pick, possibly a 2nd-round plus. Originally I was thinking, another team, a contending team like the Packers that can use them, a team like that. But can they make the cap work now in the future? I don't think so. I think teams that can, teams like that probably would, and the Browns. I think Watt can. Fit with Myles Garrett, even in a 4-3 there on the opposite side. And the Browns have a ton of cap space. Now and in the future. A team like the Cardinals, I think possibly more of a wild card, but I really don't think it happens. It doesn't happen because I don't think the Texans want to. I don't think other teams that actually would want to can do it. So that's 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 the situation there. Bill O'Brien kind of ruined the draft pick, draft capital for the Texans there, and they got to try to get something back here. So maybe other players can come up. I've heard David Johnson, didn't put him in this video because I just really don't think a deal happens there. Maybe Brandon Cooks comes up. I don't know. We'll see. They're going to try to fix that. Moving on to the next one. JuJu Smith-Schuster, big name here. Huge name that's going to pop up a little bit. And people may be surprised. Why would the Steelers trade JuJu Smith-Schuster? Why? Because he's got an expiring contract, and Steelers probably can't pay him. It's very unlikely that they can pay him next year. They're in a pretty, they're in a situation with the cap space. I think they can create more room and possibly do that. And they have really good receivers right now. So if they lost him in free agency, they would get a 2022 third-round compensatory pick. I'm very confident on that. If they lost him, they would get it's not guaranteed, but I'm gonna make it a goat house guarantee. If they lost him, they would get a third-round compensatory pick in 2022. So you would need more than that to trade him right now. But I don't think it happens because there's still a chance they can re-sign him, even though they got other good receivers, even though they have some cap space situation. They got some open cap in the future, though, just not right now. But also, the main thing, they are contending. They are contending right now. They are contending right now, and JuJu Smith-Schuster, with him off the team, they're still a contender, but they are less of a contender. So they're trying to win. I don't think it happens. They're gonna lose out on some picks if they lose out on him in free agency, but they'll take the gamble. A team like the Packers, Colts, Patriots, teams that are trying to get in the playoffs or more of a contender that need a receiver would definitely be willing to do it. The Packers would probably be willing to do it even if it's a rental because his contract's coming to an end. Can they afford him next year? That's kind of the question with them. But they would be that much better with him now. They can definitely be legit contenders. So, teams like that would definitely be interested. But I just don't see the Steelers doing it because they're trying to contend now. JuJu Smith-Schuster obviously helps them contend now. So, don't see it happening, but it's an interesting name that I think people will throw around there just because of those reasons. And then one more, a really big wild card one here is a rookie, Isaiah Simmons. Haven't really heard anything on this, but the Cardinals just aren't playing him. They're just disappointed with him, but they just really aren't playing him. They don't really view him as a fit. They're trying to figure out how to use him. This guy's a talented dude. I really don't know how you can't figure out how to use him, but I would like him to go to more of a 4-3 team. I think he'd fit that a little better. He's super talented, though. I think his value would still have to be at a first-round pick. He's still a prospect with an insane amount of upsides. I think teams would kill to have him. I think not traded because the Cardinals probably will still hold out hope that they can figure something out for him. But if traded, I look at the Browns, the Cowboys, the Eagles. I think the Eagles got a situation cap space-wise in the future, but he's not too much of a cap hit. But that would be more of a wild card. But it seems like the Browns and the Cowboys, there's other teams that would love to have him, but those teams, those teams I didn't put him in here because they're probably picking within the top 10, and they may be in the market for a quarterback, something like that, so they wouldn't be willing to trade the first-round pick. But I think a team like the Browns and the Cowboys possibly could. The Cowboys could have an earlier pick the way they're looking right now, but I can see them really liking Isaiah Simmons. They got some pretty poor play at linebacker. They got beat up linebackers, some pretty poor play. They need more of that rangy guy to help them out. So, but I'm looking at more at the Browns. The Browns would definitely be interested in this for sure. I think, but again, it's a long shot to happen. A long shot. There's some other names that have popped up. Smaller names. This was more about talking about the bigger names here. When there's some big names that have been brought up too, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Those I didn't put them in here because those just aren't happening. They're not happening. The Falcons don't want to trade for them. I don't think other teams want to trade for them. Maybe with their asking price. Maybe Julio. The Falcons don't want to trade Julio. Too much of a dead cap hit if the Falcons trade those guys away as well. Those just aren't happening. So that's why I didn't include that. More guys' names will come up. We'll have more videos like this. We'll have final predictions. We'll have grades on the deals that will happen. So let me know your thoughts here on this video in the comments. Please smash that like button. Let me know if you got trade scenarios in the comments as well. Please subscribe. Like I said, more of these trade deadline videos on the way. We still got over a week till it happens, so we'll find out more info and things will start to heat up. Follow our Twitter, where we'll talk about all this first before on the channel. But that's going to do it. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.